The S23 Ultra versus the iPhone 14 Pro Max. That's right, I have both Samsung and Apple's latest flagship, and today we're going to be comparing the two and talk about which may be the better fit for you. Whether you're considering leaving the Apple ecosystem for the shiny new S23 Ultra and all of its glorious features, or you want to go to the tried and true 14 Pro Max, hopefully I'll be able to help you narrow it down so you can pick a winner out of the bunch. Right off the rip, there's no doubt that both of these phones have gigantic displays. They're both OLED and have 1 to 120 Hz LTPO technology, allowing them to be more efficient, though the iPhone has a 6.7-inch OLED Super Retina XDR display with a pixel density of 460 ppi. The S23 Ultra is rocking a 6.8-inch dynamic AMOLED display with a 500 ppi. The S23 Ultra does have the larger display and the higher resolution in this case, though the QHD Plus is not enabled by default out of the box. The phone is set to FHD Plus, and it's up to you whether you think the extra battery hit is worth the extra gain in pixel density. More about the battery though later in this video, so you should stay tuned. Before we get into it though, a like and a sub to the channel would be very much appreciated. As you can tell, I'm recording this video and I probably sound like ass because I'm sick. I'm still just trying to get this video up for my Thursday upload schedule so that you guys don't have, to miss an upload from me. A like and a sub goes a really long way to show your support, and we're very close to 15,000 subscribers. My original goal for that was April, when it'd be 1 year for the channel, but it looks like we're going to be hitting that sometime next week, which is absolutely insane. My birthday is on March 7, so if we can hit 15K by March 7, that would mean a lot to me. That being said, when we're talking devices smaller than 7 inches, I don't really think you'll be able to tell a difference between FHD Plus and QHD modes found on the Samsung. Though another thing people love to point out and give Apple credibility for is their screen brightness. The iPhone 14 Pro Max on paper has a much brighter display boasting up to 2000 nits. However, what I found is by manually adjusting the brightnesses when I'm watching content, the S23 Ultra appears to be brighter and sustains that brightness for longer. Is it that big of a deal though? I mean, not really. Both of these displays are going to give you a really good size, a really good contrast ratio, really good brightness, and both of them are going to be really good for watching any sort of content that you consume. That being said though, if I personally had to pick a device out of the two that I prefer when it comes to display, it would have to be the Samsung, giving the option to the consumer that you're allowed to use a vivid and a regular color option. I think the vivid color mode stands out, and it looks really good for a lot of the content that you consume on these devices. Not only that, but there's no dynamic island taking up the forehead of the display. This means when it comes to gaming, videos, or whatever you do on the device, there's just less getting in the way. Though, having a large display introduces a huge problem for me. When it comes to navigating these devices, it can be difficult given the size, and for the iPhone, in my experience, it's kind of a nightmare. There is no way to customize the navigation like you would be able to on an Android, so you're stuck with this default awkward reach around just to swipe back, rather than swiping on the side that's closest to your thumb. This is something that I really hope to see change in iOS 17 because it's a really big point of contention for someone like me who enjoys using these larger devices. It doesn't help much on the 14 Pro Max either, given that it's a flat-edged phone and feels really cumbersome to hold in one hand. When compared to the S23 Ultra's rounder and softer edges, the phone slips into your hand, and for the size, makes it really comfortable and easy to forget that you're holding a tablet. Anyways, it's hard to talk about the iPhone without bringing up Face ID. Face ID here is solid, and it almost never fails. It's tucked away nicely inside the dynamic island, and when it comes to biometrics, personally, I prefer it. It's fast, it's reliable, you don't even have to think about it, it just works. Now, when it comes to face unlock on the S23 Ultra, it's fine, but it's just a 2D face scanner, so don't expect much. I get away with using the fingerprint on this phone for biometrics, which although does work and is really responsive for me, it's not as natural as I would personally like. For example, in the Fold, when I open the device, it's already unlocked because it has an in-button scanner, something that I'd much rather have on the S23 Ultra. That being said, I would much rather take an ultrasonic fingerprint reader in the iPhone any day over having something as intrusive like the dynamic island. Not that it isn't useful or doesn't even allow for some sort of multitasking, but it doesn't do enough for me to warrant a permanent spot up there. I know this was Apple's way of getting into multitasking and allowing it to be non-intrusive and subtle in the UI, but frankly, it feels like they use software to solve a hardware shortcoming. When I think about multitasking, I think about having two apps at the same time, being able to do two tasks at once. Hell, you can even have a floating calculator if you need to make calculations whilst looking at what you're doing. The dynamic island just cannot give you this complexity. It can give you live events, it can show you what music is playing, but for me, it doesn't do enough in its current state to warrant how much display area it actually takes up. Things like Dex on the S23 Ultra are another bonus. It literally turns your phone into an on-the-go computer when you need it, and you can even do it wirelessly if you have a capable TV. And the S Pen for making notes and annotating screenshots, or even using it as a remote shutter. There's just so much the S23 Ultra can do that the iPhone can't. However, the iPhone is just one part of the story, and it becomes a really powerful tool if you have a MacBook, an iPad, or other devices like a HomePod or an Apple Watch. This seamless connectivity between these devices sells it for most people. One of the things that made it hard for me to get away from using an iPhone was being a content creator, especially considering how good the video is. iPhone's 4K 30 and 4K 60 make this a powerful tool for anyone looking at getting into content creation. You can shoot, edit, and upload all from your phone, thanks to just how powerful it is. And that video is no joke. The S23 Ultra just got 8K 30 capabilities, and I have to say, that is no gimmick at all. Though the larger file size makes it harder to share and work with, and for video in general, I still have to give the iPhone the upper hand, especially with how easy it is to transfer thanks to things like AirDrop. The cameras can be a toss-up. To be honest, I prefer the S23 Ultra's look more, and the camera is far more versatile, allowing you to zoom 10 times with a periscope lens and 100 times digitally versus the iPhone's 3 times telephoto lens. It's really night and day. I'm not going to spend too much time on the photos because I'm not a photographer by any means, but what I will say is that the 200 megapixels on the S23 Ultra can give you some amazing shots in well-lit environments, but anything in the dark will fall apart. The iPhone, on the other hand, nails the Pro RAW with the 48 megapixel sensor, and thanks to that lower aperture, handles lower lit environments pretty damn well. That being said, when it comes to point and shoot and versatility, I actually prefer the Samsung. But there are a couple things that I want to mention quickly though. The speakers, although I don't have a way of demonstrating this, just hear me out. While Samsung has improved, and they improved a lot, I think the iPhone sounds more rich, especially at higher volumes, and the S23 Ultra falls apart when it gets loud. That being said, I'm impressed with how much of a difference 1 year refinement has made. When it comes to speed, both of these phones are going to perform similarly, and I don't care what benchmarks say. As someone that owns both of these and uses them both side by side for these comparison videos, they're both blazing fast phones, and you won't really notice a difference between either one. The S23 Ultra is killing it when it comes to battery performance. For real. It's been a huge turnaround, and it's about on par, if not better than the 14 Pro Max that I have, whose battery may have seen some better days. Who knows, an iOS update may change that, but as of late, it hasn't really been performing too well. I'm getting easily 10 hours of screen on time with the S23 Ultra, which is just absurd for an Android phone in recent memory. But lastly, both of these phones are amazing devices. If you're looking for something like Dex, the S23 Ultra is a great option. However, if you want to stick with something that has iMessage, of course you're going to be looking at the iPhone. However, in my honest opinion, you can't really go wrong with either. Anyways, that's been it. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and sub to the channel. I'm going to go ahead and go take a nap after this, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.